Hello and welcome to Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Today is going to be a short video talking about something that has no particular name, but it is a colorwork project. I'm calling the subject of this video irregular colorwork. So usually when we do colorwork knitting, you can see here my Porty pullover. If you want details on this, the project is linked in the show notes. This is regular colorwork. You get these diamonds all the way across. You get these lozenge shapes all the way across. You're basically getting a Fair Isle pattern or a colorwork pattern where there's like 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1 all the way across around, and maybe 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. Whatever the pattern is, it repeats itself. It's a pattern. It interlocks. It goes together, basically. A lot of colorwork, most colorwork, in fact, probably does that. That's kind of, but sometimes that's not what you get. Sometimes you're knitting a picture. Sometimes you're knitting text. There's one famous pair of mittens that has a bird on the back. I don't know who designed it. I've never knit them, but it's called like the songbird mittens. There's some mittens that say cold as expletive. Something I say a lot, but I don't try to say it on the internet because kids could be watching. You never know. Some people just don't like it when you say bad words, but those are funny. And that would be irregular colorwork. Like there's a pattern, there's an interlocking pattern to create a picture or something, but there's not a repeating pattern all the way across that kind of, creates just a thing. You're knitting a picture or a motif that, not always, maybe. Like sometimes colorwork's not symmetrical. You get like little crown shapes or something. That's somewhat common in Scandinavian knitting, or something, but like, it's still regular all the way around. I'm going to be talking about this pair of mittens. Only the first one is done, but this is the mitten, and it is quite something. This is not my first time knitting these mittens, which is why I feel comfortable showing you only one. This pattern is called Filigree, and it is by Barbara Gregory. And I'm going to show you my Ravelry page for this other pair I made of them. But it's basically these flower, and it's huge. It's like a huge flower that goes all the way around. The colorwork is going all the way around the mitten. There's these little bursts here. There's another flower kind of thing. There's like this little, I don't know, maybe that's a stem. Like little suns. I don't know what they are. There's a nice long cuff. The mitten is plenty long. I like this mitten actually because it's knit on a size 2.5, US 2.5, instead of like a US 1 or 1.5, which is what I knit, or 0. Gosh, good heaven forbid. I used to knit mittens on a size 0. It really wrecked my hands. I got really, really sore hands when I was doing that. So I kind of had to stop. Sorry, my hair's a little crazy today. But this also doesn't have a thumb yet. I'm going to show you another pair of these that I made, and I don't have them. I gave them to my friend Sachi, who now lives in England, so hopefully they're keeping her hands warm there. She was my neighbor when we were growing up, so she's my oldest friend. And she watches this. She does. So maybe she doesn't watch every episode, but if you're watching, Sachi, love you. This is the pair that I made for her. I made 2 pairs of mittens when I went to visit her and her sister Lucy in Chicago a few years ago. And I think that I made these ones with Sachi in mind. The other ones were like this, they were white with a hand-dyed green foreground color that I had done. And I had intended to give those ones to Lucy because her hair was the same color at the time. And I think that's how it ended up, that Sachi took these ones and Lucy took the green ones. But I was like, you guys can choose. It doesn't really matter to me. So there they are. That's a red and a yellow. It was kind of an orangey yellow, but I dyed those colors. Those were some of the first yarns I ever dyed. They were both Hawthorne sock yarn from Knit Picks, which is an 80-20 blend. And the thumbs were too tight. I remember that very well. So when I went to knit these, I thought, okay, you got to be careful about that. So yeah, these are by Barbara Gregory. I'm going to just click so I actually knit them in basically the colorway, in the sample colorway, basically. I did this on purpose. I saw those mittens and I thought, I'm gonna knit them in that colorway, those colorways, but I'm gonna make them myself. And I did a pretty good job. Sorry, I'm just like hiding under my iPad here. I'm still happy about that. Here's a pair in a red or blue and yellow, which are super pretty. The pattern really jumps out at you in this beautiful blue and yellow. Like you can, it's harder to see the insides of the flower. Like your eye doesn't go there instantly, but it does hear you the insides of that flower. You can just really see that detail. So many pretty ones. She's done other ones. I'm gonna just click on this. I think there's one called Perianth or something. She's done other ones like this. So there's the other one. Well, this one's called Pixie Farts, which is funny. Those are, oops, no, sorry. Not that you saw anything exciting. It's just my iPad home screen. Those are cute, Pixie Farts. Definitely irregular color work. Gentian, those are pretty. This is the one I was thinking of, Perianth. Maybe you pronounce it differently. But there they are. Super pretty. I think I have this pattern too. I've never made them, but they're so pretty. Little flowers. And they're not symmetrical. Like you see here, they kind of, like that one's there's a big motif on the center of the back, but you know, they kind of go around the mitten. They're so pretty. So anyway, I wanted to show you the ones that were finished. This was a request from a friend who saw that picture and was like, I want those. And I was like, I'll make you some. Yeah, if you're my friend, you know that if you say, can I have that? I'm like, yeah, let me make it for you. I hope I don't get like a barrage of emails being like, please make me this, because if if we don't know each other, I'm not doing it. It's really a case by case basis. Depends on if I have the time. So these, she said she wanted them in two greens, a darker green and a lighter green, and she wanted them both to be very vibrant. So she sent me the yarn. She sent me bare yarn to dye it. She was like, you can dye it. It'll be special if you dye it. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Send me the yarn. So she had the yarn sent to me, and she sent me a Hawthorne sock yarn, which is the same yarn I knit the first pair in. And I dyed them, but I don't know how to get a vibrant yellow like that. I don't know how to get a vibrant yellow green. And I tried, but I don't think that the dark green was dark enough, because the other one was pretty vibrant, but it wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't like a pop, and I didn't think they would pop if they were knit together. So I thought, what am I gonna do? So then I came home from Baltimore, where I'd been for a week or almost 2 weeks, and I had a package waiting that was my like the Farmer's Daughters Sock Squad, Farmer's Daughters Fibers Sock Squad, which I get, so once I've done it for the whole year this year because I've been knitting socks a lot. So I get every month a skein of sock yarn with a 20-gram mini, and it's different bases. There's 3 different bases, so you get each base 4 times total. There's a 75-25 base, an 80-20 base, and a yak base. So it's 70% merino, 20% yak, 10% nylon. So it was a yak month, and this bright lime green was the mini skein. And I just saw it and I was like, that's the green I need to use. And I was definitely worried that there wouldn't be enough because it was a mini skein. And I was like, I don't know, I feel like most mittens take like 30 grams each, but this is 20 grams. It was a big mini, and it was a yak mini, so it was pretty high yardage because it's nice thin yarn. And then I had this spruce, kind of sprucey green color that I'd made. I think I had originally made this to be a sweater, but I didn't end up, I made it into a short sleeve, and it was Colorwork, so I didn't end up using this much green. So I had a whole skein and like half left. So I figured I'll use that. We'll see what happens, because they were about the same weight. The lime green is is the yak base, so it's thinner. And then the dark green is the BFL high twist sock base. So it's 100% wool, it's 100% BFL, but it's a high twist. And so it's kind of like sock yarn, but it doesn't have nylon. So that makes it a good yarn for mittens. And because they were both really thin, they went well together. Obviously, I held the lighter green dominant. This mitten's kind of interesting because the top is much more rounded than like a Selbu mitten, which I'm more used to making. Like that one, it usually ends in a point, like you're doing either a very small row of Kitchener stitches or you're just threading it through the top because it ends in a pinhole. So the shape's a little different, not a problem. But irregular color work is different. It's a challenge. So it basically means that you need to pay attention the whole time because you need to be constantly looking at your chart. Nothing makes sense. Like if you're knitting a pattern of little crosses, for instance, in a fair isle, you know it's going to be 3-1, 3-1, and then you're going to alternate and go 1-3, 1-3, and you don't need to look at the pattern because you can read your knitting from the round below and know exactly what you're supposed to do. And then for the next round, the same thing, repeat the first round. So a lot of color work, you know, it's like that. It's simple, it's easy to memorize like that. Each round, you can tell if you've made a mistake, that kind of thing. Irregular color work is not like that. You need to look because you're not going to have a pattern all the way across the mitten in each round. You're creating a picture. It's like more like intarsia in that way. It's not, this is stranded, obviously. You can see the strands. But it's, so another challenge is there's often long floats. So that's something to be pretty wary of. You do want to catch your long floats. Sometimes you have to catch long floats a bunch of times. I mean, some you can see there's these like the dark green sections here. Those are long floats, like 11 stitches. So you're going to want to make sure that your tension is good. You're not pulling too tight because it'll pucker if you're holding it too tight. Again, it's kind of something to work towards after you have a lot of practice knitting with more regular type of color work because it's just frustrating. You know, when you're trying to learn how to read these patterns and you're also trying to do something irregular and you're catching a lot of floats, it can be frustrating. But if you know what you're doing, if you've done a lot of it, done a lot of color work, you want a little challenge, it's really fun. And like I said, I was a little afraid because I only had a 20-gram mini, but I still had that yellow left over from the first pair that I'd made like 3 years ago. And I weighed that leftovers and I was like 88 grams. And I was like, okay, there definitely wasn't more than 105 grams in this ball. So there's no way I used 20 grams. And that was a much heavier weight of sock yarn. Like Hawthorne sock, that's a thick 80-20. Like that's thicker than your regular commercial hand-dyed 80-20. So I took a chance. I said, I'm gonna knit both the mittens first. And then if I run out, I won't have to do I'll just do plain thumbs. I'm not planning on running out. It looks like I have plenty. So you don't use very much. If you have a mini skein, basically you can knit this pair of mittens if you've got enough of your main color. And mittens really don't take that much yarn. It's less yarn than socks, total. It's so, seriously, like you can get a lot of mittens out of two balls of yarn. So I think I modified the cuff to be longer on this, but otherwise I didn't make any other modifications. There's a gusseted thumb on the side here. So you can see that I made increases along this edge, this V edge. You can see it there because it's outlined in dark green. Here, take it off so you can see. And then when you're done, you put those stitches on hold. This is different from a Selbu mitten because on a Selbu mitten, you would start with your total number of stitches on the back of your hand would stay the same the whole time until you started doing the decreases at the top. And you'd have, so the back wouldn't change. You'd have all your stitches there. The front, there would be a gusset that came out of nothing here, or one stitch that grew here. So you'd have fewer stitches starting on the front, you're increasing them. And then when you get to the end of the gusset, you usually, in a real Selbu style, you'd put those on waste yarn just like this, and you'd cast on over the hole. Some people just knit waste yarn over, and then they pick up the stitches on either side of the waste yarn, and they knit the thumb up from there, and they take the waste yarn out. So yeah, choose whatever is your preference, I guess, whatever easiest for you. But this, when Monica and I were knitting mittens, we noticed that a lot of the patterns, the gusset wasn't very well fitting. Like, I don't know, there would be a front gusset that just wasn't big enough on some of the mittens. it didn't matter. We were like, we can fix that. And Monica was especially smart at editing those patterns so that they would fit somebody properly. And she was very dedicated to it. Like she was really good about making sure that it fit into the pattern. If you know, there was kind of like an all over pattern, and she's very smart about it. So this was our favorite type to edit, was to make, if a thumb or if a mitten had like a peasant thumb or something where you don't even have any increases here, you just have like waste yarn and then you pick it up afterwards. She would change all of those, and I did change a lot of them too, to be like this on the side because it's a comfortable fit. I would say that a gusset on the front is also a very comfortable fit by the palm gusset. Perfectly good. My worsted weight sail boom mittens usually have that kind of gusset, or my fingering weight sail boom mittens, and they're great. So that works. But yeah, I would say that it's a really fun challenge. If you are fast at color work, like I have had a lot of practice with color work because I knit a lot in color work, and I think definitely my speed has increased like exponentially over the past few years, having just done it a lot of times. But the first time I knit these, it definitely wasn't quite as fast as this time. I was shocked at, like, if you know color work, you can do something like this in an evening. I mean, not the whole thing maybe, but like you can really get through. I think I did this in 2 days. Like you can chug through it. And I was working on other stuff. So it's surprisingly like a palette cleanser. I was impressed, and I was like, maybe I should make more mittens. And then Monica said, you forget that those are knit on a 2.5. Most of the mittens we knit are like a size of 1.5 or a 1. So they're going to be more of a drag. Monica is the most honest person in the world. She will keep you honest. Make sure you know what you're talking about. No, make sure you know what you're doing, which is extremely refreshing in a person. But yeah, I love the little glimmers. It's like little stars, cute little things. Anyway, these are fun. And I think I made a good choice on the colors, trying to edit. I think it would not have come out if I had done this in the Hawthorne. I'll make some socks out of that yarn. It'll be fun. My friend will get nice mittens. I don't think she cares. So that'll be fun. I'm excited. I'm gonna knit the second one. I'm gonna start it tonight. I was just finishing some DK socks. I'm trying to get a bunch of stuff off my needles because I'm moving and I'm gonna have a full-time job in a couple weeks, and it's a lot less knitting time when you have a full-time job that's not running after kids. So that's fun. This has been a nice short video for me. A little video on irregular color work. Yeah, so try it if you're interested. I just think this is so magical. Like, look how magical it is. It's so pretty, and it's so fun. And I would knit this in so many different colors. The tonal background color with the really very deep kind of lime of the pattern color of the yak yarn really glows because of the sheen that it has. And it comes light brown, so this is over dyed on light brown, which is very impressive because I don't think I could get that color on the yak base if I tried. I don't know what color you'd dye it to get this, because it's brown. Again, it starts brown. It's gotta be vibrant. Like this would be in neon on a white yarn, on a white base, but it's not. It's just beautiful. So much depth in these mittens because of the way the colors go together. So that's my mitten. That's my irregular mitten. It's not blocked, by the way. So it's hard to tell from that far away. If you look up close, like you see, oh, it's kind of bumpy, you know, whatever. Everybody finds fault with their own knitting. Yeah, especially with floats, long floats, that comes out in the wash. Don't worry. Be happy. Knit happy. Always knit what makes you feel good. It's like what Yoga with Adrienne says. Adrienne of Yoga with Adrienne. Find what feels good. Do what feels good if you're knitting. So yeah, this has been an irregular colorwork mitten from Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Bye.